fact is the number of women aged 15 to 49 in Nigeria currently who are victims of female genital mutilation. We live in a society where being female is the social equivalent of having "violate me" boldly written on your forehead. And we must act as Nigerians, especially as young people, to stop that menace and to solve that problem. And that is what I'm here to speak to you today about. To start my speech, I want to tell you a story about a girl named Jane, a victim of female genital mutilation. When she was 12, she went to her village for summer holidays, and one morning she was woken up at 5 a.m. by her grandmother. Confused as to what was going on, she was taken to an empty room, made to lay on a table like she was about to be sacrificed. Her legs were forced open and her clitoris was cut off. She bled for days, caught an infection, and in the long term suffered from protracted states of depression, and she dropped out of school. She was caught using tools like that. As we can see, the knives, the razors, and even the palms of the individuals are very capable of transmitting diseases and infections to the victims. Jane is not alone. She's one of the 20 million Nigerian women who are victims of female genital mutilation in the status quo. The consequences of female genital mutilation are dire and dehumanizing. And beyond that, what makes female genital mutilation worse and more horrid is the very terrible procedures that the victims are made to go through before female genital mutilation is carried out, and the psychological consequences, the health consequences, and the physical debilitations that victims are made to undergo after female genital mutilation. There are 4 broad general categories and types of female genital mutilation, according to the World Health Organization. The first of them is known as clitoridectomy. As the name implies, clitoridectomy involves the cutting of the clitoris of the female. And this is done for absolutely no medical reason. The only reason why this is done by mothers to their daughters in most of the instances is to limit and reduce, detract from their willingness and capacity to have sex. And the reason why this is done is because they want to keep the victims pure and chaste for their husbands, the men, when they get married to them in future. That sounds really disgusting, right? The second of them is known as excision. Excision refers to the cutting of the clitoris and major part of the labia minora, and this accounts for 80% of the cases of female genital mutilation in the status quo in the world today, and this is the type Jane was made to go through. But the first and second type of female genital mutilation is not combined, is not as dangerous and harmful as the third, which is known as infibulation, which refers to the cutting of the entire external genitalia of the female, the clitoris, the labia minora, and the labia majora, and the stitching of the vagina of the female to allow for a very tiny hole, the circumference of a toothpick, to allow for urine and menstrual flow to come out from the urinal tract in drips. What this causes is it leads to a congestion of the urinal tract and the vaginas of the females and could cause very life-threatening infections. And all other types of female genital mutilation, such as scraping, cauterizing, piercing, are all classified under the fourth category. Female genital mutilation constitutes a fundamental assault on the dignity of women as sentient and sapient beings, people who are capable of feeling pain and people who possess life fundamentally, because that is what characterizes us also, right? So whether we are female or we are males, we fundamentally possess life before the gender construct that is artificially imposed by society. It also constitutes an abuse for the rights of the children, because in a vast majority of the instances, it is carried out on girls before they turn 15 in most parts of Africa. It also violates the person's right to security, person's right to health, and personal integrity. So there's no other crime in Nigeria that violates as much rights, fundamental rights for the woman as female genital mutilation does, except murder. But I'm also prepared to argue that murder doesn't violate as much rights, because when we are dead, we are all gone, right? We do not feel any pain. We are numb to our feelings. We are unconscious at that point. But as victims of female genital mutilation, we live through the horror. Victims live through the horror, the pain, the agony, the stigma from this same society that imposed this on them. And in most of the instances, victims opt to commit suicide. And the reason is because they feel and think, realistically, that suicide is a more expedient and an easier option for them because of the pain they have to go through. So they prefer to die than be victims of female genital mutilation. So we must be asking ourselves now, why is a problem this significant not spoken about so much? For a lot of us seated here today, this may be the first time we are hearing this much about female genital mutilation, or hearing about female genital mutilation at all. A lot of us deny the problem. So there are two broad categories of those who deny female genital mutilation. The first accept that yes, it goes on, but deny that it is a problem because we carry it out to fulfill our cultural mandate and our traditional mandate, as if it is impossible for us to be cultural beings without violating people who are integral parts of that culture. The second, and I believe the more dangerous people, are those who believe that it doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it existed in the 80s, but female genital mutilation doesn't exist anymore. That is very statistical, because statistics show that it exists more prevalently in Nigeria, in the urban areas. Like I told you, 20 million people, women, are victims in the status quo, and 35% of the women who currently live in urban areas in Nigeria are victims of female genital mutilation, as opposed to 19% in the rural area. So this points to the fact that as a result of the increasing rate of rural-urban migration, there's a spread of these menace to other parts of the country where the hitherto did not exist. So it is fast spreading, and this is the reason why we all have to act to end these menace. One of the reasons why it exists, the only reason and justification, as a matter of fact, is tradition and culture, which finds itself deep-seated in the patriarchal norms that exist in our society. The traditional notion that men are entitled to the bodies and the lifestyle decisions of females, and that is morally reprehensible and very abhorrent. As males seated in this room, there's immoral obligations on us to act. Because whether or not we directly mutilate women, whether or not we directly are involved in the violation of the rights of women, whether or not we respect our wives, whether or not we rape women and abuse our wives and daughters at home, we are indirectly responsible for this, because in almost all instances, the justification for this problem is we males, because they want to be kept chaste for us. So it requires us to speak up, to use our voice and our actions to reconcile our voice, our privilege and power, the privileged position and social capital that we have in society to uplift others to action, to uplift women and inspire people who otherwise wouldn't act to act necessarily, because this is a problem that we are responsible for, and the reason why this is carried out is because of women that exist in the society today. As a man, I founded the Calabar Youth Council for Women's Rights to create awareness and increase advocacy for gender-based violence in the areas of female genital mutilation, rape, sexual violence, sexual abuse, and domestic violence that takes place in all parts of the world. So it is not a problem that is limited to a particular geographical landscape or geographical frontiers. Female genital mutilation and gender-based violence, which is inextricably tied to, knows no borders. It's a global problem. And we are based in Calabar, and through active engagement of citizens, especially the young ones, through school kids, we try to get everyone involved, because all hands need to be on deck. And solution to the problem of gender-based violence requires a broad coalition of actors, because Nigeria is a very heterogeneous society, almost 200 million people, and it is impossible for us to solve this problem without a broad coalition of actors, because one individual, one organization cannot reach out to everyone that exists. It requires each and every one of us to be actors, speaking up about this, creating conversations about this in the societies where we live in today and in other parts of the world, wherever we find ourselves. So, as we can see, female genital mutilation in Nigeria is more prevalent in the southern part of Nigeria, as opposed to what most of us think. A lot of us think it is rise in the northern parts of Nigeria, where because of the reduced rate of education, and it is not necessarily about who is educated or who is not. It's not necessarily about who lives in the urban areas or who doesn't. It's about a deep-seated cultural narrative and stereotype that exists, because over 25% of those who even have education in the status quo think that female genital mutilation should continue, because every one of us fundamentally are cultural animals, if I'm to put it that way. So how do we do this? We need to speak up about this, because we need to create conversations. The first step is to speak up about it, to create conversations, to create a recognitive reorientation for individuals that exist in society, to tell them that this problem is one that has to do with the way we perceive women, and we need to change this cultural, cognitive stereotype that each and every one of us have. Secondly, we all need to volunteer. Find an organization like the Calabar Youth Council for Women's Rights, very close to you, work for them, donate to them, contribute in some way, even if there's no position where you live or where you work. You can be an actor, you can volunteer, you can render community service, because this is the only way that we can unleash the potential of victims of female genital mutilation. 20 million women in the status quo are shackled. They have no hopes, no dreams, no ambitions for the future. And their futures and the futures of those who are potential victims and potential perpetrators of this act lies in our hands. It is up to us to talk to people, to create conversations, for us to get rid of this stereotype. Youth constitute 75% of the Nigerian population today. But by 2050, we will all be 100% of the future. So it's up to us to create the future we want to live in by 2050. One where 20 million or more people are sent to the margins of society because they cannot actively contribute, because they suffer from mental health issues, because they are stigmatized by society, because they suffer from depression and cannot meaningfully contribute to society. Or one where we all unite irrespective of our gender to build our country that will last the test of time. That is a question we must all answer here today. I would like to end my speech here today by taking the radical stance that women do not need empowerment. Women are already powerful. What we need to do is to change the way society perceives the power of women. So it is not the fault of women. It is the fault of society that we are blind to the greatness implicit in women, the potential implicit in them. So for each and every one of us here today, let us treat women with respect. Let us stop violating them. Let us stop abusing them. I love you all. Thank you.